Good morning, everyone. Today we are discussing on the topic of agents that are used in dyslipidemia. So yesterday we discussed why we need drugs for dyslipidemia. So the main reason why we need is atherosclerosis and acute pancreatitis. Okay, so we also discussed lipoprotein metabolism, which is of four types: exogenous, endogenous, cholesterol metabolism, and HDL metabolism. So these are all the pathways. These are the five main types of lipoproteins, that is chylomicron, HDL, LDL, IDL, and VLDL. Okay, so here we are. Mm. Here we discuss the role of HMG-CoA reductase. So this enzyme helps in the formation of cholesterol from acetate. This is the rate limiting step. It means if we suppress this enzyme, then the formation of cholesterol will be delayed. We also discussed apolipoproteins and then dyslipidemia, which is of two main types, the primary and the secondary. The primary is genetically determined and secondary is as a consequence of some health condition. This health condition could be, uh, see, there are two types of hyperlipoproteinemia. One is hypertriglyceridemia and second is hypercholesterolemia. Okay. So hypertriglyceridemia, it is caused by diabetes mellitus, alcohol ingestion, severe nephrosis, estrogens, uremia, HIV, myxedema, glycogen storage disease, hypopituitarism, acromegaly, and lipodystrophy. Hypercholesterolemia, it can be seen in hypothyroidism, early nephrosis, resolving lipemia, immunoglobulin lipoprotein complex disorders, anorexia nervosa, cholestasis, hypopituitarism, and corticosteroid excess. Here we see some parameters. Okay, so these are the types of primary hyperlipoproteinemias. Okay, now coming to management of secondary hyperlipoproteinemia. Okay, see, hyperlipoproteinemia of both types, it can be measured either by lifestyle modification or by use of drugs. So dietary measures are initiated first unless the patient has evident coronary or peripheral vascular disease and may obviate the need for drugs. Patients with familial hyperlipidemias, they always require drug therapy. Cholesterol and saturated and trans fats are the principal factors that increase LDL, whereas total fat, alcohol, and excess calories they increase triglyceride. So we have to keep these factors in mind. Okay. Alcohol can cause significant hypertriglyceridemia. So if a patient is having fatty liver, alcohol intake, so what we advise is to stop the alcohol intake. And if we want to make sure whether dietary control is sufficient to control the hyperlipidemia, we need to uh, manage the patient for at least 1 to 3 months, okay, and then recheck the weight, body weight, and also the lipid profile, and then only we can decide whether we need medicines or not. So in diet we have to limit the total calories from fat to less than 20 to 25% of daily intake. Hmm. In this, the saturated fat should be less than 7% and cholesterol should be less than 200 milligram per day. Okay. So mostly what happens when we suggest a patient with this diet, the reduction in cholesterol, serum cholesterol level, it can range from 10 to 20% on this regimen. Okay, so if we want to lower the VLDL and IDL, we have to advise patient weight reduction, caloric restriction, avoidance of alcohol. People who eat fish, they are also considered safe. I mean, fish has fish oil. In people who eat fish, it is suitable. Now we should also discuss about homocysteine. Homocysteine, it initiates pro-atherogenic changes in endothelium, and it can be reduced in many patients by restriction of total protein intake to the amount required for amino acid replacement. Okay. So supplementation with folic acid plus other B vitamins and administration of betaine is indicated in severe homocystinemia. Consumption of red meat should be minimized. So now we come to the hypolipidemic drugs that are used in hyperlipidemia. Okay. So the decision to use drug therapy for hyperlipidemia, it is based on the specific metabolic defect and its potential for causing the atherosclerosis or pancreatitis. Suggested regimes for the suggested drug classes for this are HMG-CoA reductase inhibitors, for example, lovastatin, simvastatin, pravastatin, atorvastatin, rosuvastatin. Bile acid sequestrants, for example, cholestyramine, cholestyramine. Lipoprotein lipase activators, that is the fibric acid derivatives, for example, clofibrate, gemfibrozil, bezafibrate, fenofibrate. Inhibitors of lipolysis and triglyceride synthesis, for example, nicotinic acid, and there are some other medicines also like ezetimibe and gugulipid. Okay. So HMG-CoA reductase inhibitors, that is the statins. These compounds are structural analogs of HMG-CoA. Okay. They are most effective in reducing LDL. So if LDL is increased, these medicines are given. Other effects include decreased oxidative stress and vascular inflammation with increased stability of atherosclerotic lesions. So it has become a standard practice to initiate reductase inhibitor therapy immediately after acute coronary syndromes, regardless of lipid levels. Okay. So its mechanism is, see, HMG-CoA, it is HMG-CoA reductase, it mediates the first step in sterol biosynthesis. The active forms of the reductase inhibitors are structural analogs of HMG-CoA intermediate, that is formed by the HMG-CoA reductase. So these analogs cause partial inhibition of the enzyme and thus may impair the synthesis of isoprenoids such as ubiquinone and dolicol and the phenylation of proteins. However, reductase inhibitors clearly induce an increase in the high affinity LDL receptors. This effect increases both the fractional catabolic rate of LDL and the liver's extraction of LDL precursors from the blood, thus reducing LDL. Because of marked first pass hepatic extraction, the major effect is on the liver. Preferential activity in liver of some congeners appears to be attributable to tissue-specific differences in uptake. So, clinical trials, they have also demonstrated significant reduction of new coronary events and atherosclerotic stroke in patients who are taking statins. So, for pharmacokinetics, 30 to 90% of oral absorption and 5 to 30% of oral bioavailability is seen with the statins. Evening dosing is needed because liver cholesterol synthesis, it is greatest between midnight and 2 a.m. Maximal effects in 1 month are seen, followed by slow regression of plaques as LDL is extracted. Most has extensive hepatic metabolism, first pass effect by CYP3A4 and CYP2C9. Statins are excreted in bile and feces with some renal excretion. So therapeutic effects. Plasma LDL, it lowers by 18 to 55%. There is a slight decrease in HDL depending on the statin and modest decrease in VLDL and triglyceride. Other cardioprotective effects like vasorelaxation, stabilization of plaques, decreased inflammation and coagulation, decreased LDL oxidation, these are also seen. Lovastatin and simvastatin may also have estrogenic effects. So, and in prostate cancer, there is a 20% reduction in likelihood of prostate and renal cancer as well. Side effects. So mostly we need to monitor liver and muscle function throughout the treatment. Okay, so once we start the patient on statins, we usually do not leave them there. We keep bringing them back and keep monitoring their liver and muscle function. Okay, so why? Because elevation of serum aminotransferase activity, it occurs in some patients. There is often intermittent and usually this is often intermittent and usually it is not associated with other evidence of hepatic toxicity. In some patients, we can continue the therapy in the absence of symptoms if aminotransferase levels are monitored and stable. In some patients who may have underlying liver disease or a history of alcohol abuse, levels may exceed 3 times the normal. These findings they portend more severe hepatic toxicity. These patients may present with malaise, anorexia, and precipitous decreases in LDL. Medication should be discontinued immediately in these patients and in asymptomatic patients whose aminotransferase activity is persistently elevated to more than 3 times the upper limit of normal. Minor increases in creatine kinase activity in plasma are observed in patients receiving these medicines. Okay. Mostly it is associated with heavy physical exercise. Okay. Rarely there may be marked elevation in creatine kinase activity, which is often accompanied by pain and discomfort in the skeletal muscles. If we do not stop the medicine there, myoglobinuria can occur leading to renal injury and renal failure. Myopathy can occur with monotherapy, but there is an increased chance with when the medicine is combined with other medicines as well. Sometimes we can also see hyperuricemia and gout. So reductase inhibitors they need to be temporarily discontinued in this side effects, and also if there is some serious illness, trauma or major surgery, so that we can minimize the potential of liver and muscle toxicity. Okay. These are contraindicated in patients with hepatic and renal disorders. So uh, before we before we start these medicines, we should check the liver function test and the kidney function test. We should also check for gout, that is the serum uric acid levels. We should also check for diabetes mellitus with the help of fasting blood glucose levels and the overall glucose tolerance test. We should also check for cardiac arrhythmias with the ECG, for pregnancy with the pregnancy tests, and obviously it is not to be given in children. Okay, coming to the next class of drugs, that is fibrates. Gemfibrozil and fenofibrate, they decrease levels of VLDL and in some patients LDL as well. Another fibrate, visafibrate, it is not available. Fibrates, these function primarily as ligands for the nuclear transcription receptor PPAR alpha. PPAR is peroxisome proliferator activated receptor alpha. They transcriptionally upregulate LPL and ApoA1 and ApoA2 and downregulate ApoC2, which is an inhibitor of lipolysis. A major effect is an increase in oxidation of fatty acids in liver and striated muscle. They increase lipolysis of lipoprotein triglyceride via LPL. Intracellular lipolysis in adipose tissue is decreased. Levels of VLDL decrease in part as a result of decreased secretion by the liver. Only modest reductions of LDL occur. In others, especially with combined hyperlipidemia, LDL often increases as triglycerides are reduced. HDL increases moderately. Part of this apparent increase is a consequence of low triglyceride in plasma. They also improve glucose tolerance and inhibit vascular smooth muscle inflammation. Okay, these are useful in hypertriglyceridemias, in which VLDL predominate, and in this beta lipoproteinemia. They may also be of benefit in treating hypertriglyceridemia that results from treatment with antiviral protease inhibitors. The usual dose of gemfibrozil is 600 mg orally once or twice daily. The dosage of fenofibrate is 1 to 3 48 mg tablets daily. Absorption of gemfibrozil is improved when the drug is taken with food. Rare adverse effects of fibrates include rashes, GI symptoms, myopathy, arrhythmias, hypokalemia, and a high blood level of aminotransferase or alkaline phosphatase. A few patients show decreases in white blood count or hematocrit. Both agents potentiate the action of coumarin and indadione anticoagulants. The rhabdomyolysis has occurred rarely. The risk of myopathy increases when fibrates are given with reductase inhibitors. Fenofibrate is the fibrate of choice for use in combination with a statin. Fibrates should be avoided in patients with hepatic or renal dysfunction. There appears to be a modest increase in the risk of cholesterol gallstones, reflecting an increase in the cholesterol content of bile. Therefore, fibrates should be used with caution in patients with biliary tract disease and in those at higher risk such as women, obese patients and Native Americans. Okay, now coming to the next class, that is bile acid binding resins. The medicines included here are cholesterol and cholestyramine and cholesevelam. They are useful only for isolated increases in LDL. In patients who also have hypertriglyceridemia, VLDL levels may be further increased during treatment with resins. Okay. So bile acid binding resins, they sequester bile acids in the GIT and prevent their reabsorption and enterohepatic recirculation. The result is decreased absorption of exogenous cholesterol and increased metabolism of endogenous cholesterol into bile acids. The increased expression of LDL receptors on liver cells, increased removal of LDL from blood, reduced concentration of LDL cholesterol in plasma. Okay. The resins they are used in the treatment of patients with primary hypercholesterolemia, producing approximately 20% reduction in LDL in maximum doses. If resins are used to treat LDL elevation in patients with combined hyperlipidemia, they may cause an increase in VLDL, requiring the addition of a second agent such as fibrate or niacin. Resins are also used in combination with other drugs to achieve further hypercholesterolemic effect. They may be helpful in relieving pruritus in patients who have cholestasis and bile acid accumulation. Resins bind digitalis glycosides, therefore they may be useful in digitalis toxicity as well. So cholesterol and cholestyramine are available as granular preparations. A gradual decrease of dosage of granules from 4 or 5 to 20 gram per day is recommended. The usual dosage for a child is 10 to 20 gram per day. Granular resins are mixed with juice or water and allowed to hydrate for 1 minute. Cholesterol is also available in 1 gram tablets. Side effects. Common complaints include constipation and abdominal bloating, which are usually relieved by increasing the dietary fiber. Resins should be avoided in patients with diverticulitis. Heartburn and diarrhea are occasionally reported. In patients who have pre-existing bowel disease or cholestasis, steatorrhea may happen. Malabsorption of vitamin K occurs rarely, leading to hypoprothrombinemia. So prothrombin time, it should be measured frequently in patients who are taking resins and anticoagulants. Malabsorption of folic acid has been reported rarely. Increased formation of gallstones, particularly in obese persons, was an anticipated adverse event, but it has rarely occurred in clinical practice. Absorption of some medicines, including those with neutral or cationic charge as well as anions, it may be impaired by the resins. So these medicines include digital glycosides, thiazides, warfarin, tetracycline, thyroxine, iron salts, pravastatin, fluvastatin, azithromycin, folic acid, phenylbutazone, aspirin, and ascorbic acid. So at any other medicine, it should be given at least 1 hour before or at least 2 hours after the resin to ensure adequate absorption. Among these, the bile acid binding resins, cholecalciferol, it does not bind digoxin, warfarin, or reductase inhibitors. So coming to nicotinic acid or niacin. Actually, niacin. This decreases triglycerides and LDL levels and lipoprotein A in most patients. It often increases HDL levels significantly. Historically, combination therapy including niacin has been associated with regression of atherosclerotic coronary lesions in 3 trials. So it acts by inhibiting VLDL secretion, in turn decreasing production of LDL. Increased clearance of VLDL via the LPL pathway contributes to reduction of triglycerides. Excretion of neutral sterols in the stool is increased acutely as cholesterol is metabolized from tissue pools and a new steady state is reached. The catabolic rate for HDL is decreased. Fibrinogen levels are reduced and levels of tissue plasminogen activator appears to be increased. Niacin inhibits the intracellular lipase of adipose tissue via receptor-mediated signaling, possibly reducing VLDL production by decreasing the flux of free fatty acids to the liver. Sustained inhibition of lipolysis has not been established. So it is used in combination with the resin or reductase inhibitor. It normalizes LDL in most patients with heterogeneous familial hypercholesterolemia and other forms of hypercholesterolemia. These combinations are also indicated in some cases of nephrosis. Niacin is clearly the most effective agent for increasing HDL and the only available agent that may reduce lipoprotein A. Its side effects: most people experience a harmless venous vasodilation and sensation of warmth after each dose when niacin is started or the dose is increased. Taking a small dose of aspirin half an hour before the niacin, it blunts this prostaglandin mediated effect. Naproxen also helps in mitigating this flushing. Tachyphylaxis to flushing usually occurs within a few days at doses above 1.5 to 3 gram daily. Patients should be warned to expect the flush and understand that it is a harmless side effect. Other side effects include pruritus, rashes, dry skin and the dry mucous membranes, and acanthosis nigricans. The acanthosis nigricans, it requires discontinuation of niacin because of its association with insulin resistance. Some patients experience nausea and abdominal discomfort. So many patients, they are able to continue the drug at the lower doses. Also, reversible elevations in liver enzymes, aminotransferases up to twice normal may occur, but these are usually not associated with liver toxicity. This, however, requires regular monitoring of liver function tests. So fish oil is mostly suitable in people who are already eating fish regularly. So there is some evidence that eating fish regularly, it reduces ischemic heart disease. Other people may experience side effects. Okay. So for newer agents of dyslipidemia, we have some trials going on. For example, scientists are using inhibitors of microsomal triglyceride transfer protein, for example, lomitapide. So these are the MTP inhibitors, lomitapide. Then antisense inhibition of ApoB100 synthesis, for example, mipomersen. Then cholesterol ester transfer protein inhibitors, for example, torcetrapib. But it was withdrawn because it caused cardiovascular events and deaths. Then pro-protein convertase subtilisin caxin type 9 inhibitors. and AMP kinase activators. Okay. We can also use these drugs in combination. So I'll come to the side with the classification again. So if we combine the fibric acid derivatives and the bile acid binding resins, this combination is sometimes useful in treating patients with familial hyperlipidemia who are intolerant of niacin or statins. However, this may increase the risk of polylithiasis. Okay, if we combine HMG CoA reductase inhibitors and bile acid binding resins, this combination is useful in the treatment of familial hypercholesterolemia, hmm, but may not control VLDL. Statins should be given 1 hour before or 2 hours after resins. Okay, if we combine niacin with bile acid binding resins, this combination effectively controls VLDL, especially in familial combined hyperlipoproteinemia or other disorders of increased VLDL and LDL. Hmm? These two drugs, they can be taken together because niacin does not bind to the resins. Okay, if we combine niacin and reductase inhibitors, if these are usually combined when the maximum dose of statin has failed to reduce the cholesterol, LDL cholesterol. Okay, so in these patients, adding niacin may be helpful. It can also be helpful in familial combined hyperlipoproteinemias also. Okay, if we combine the reductase inhibitors with ezetimibe, this combination is highly synergistic in treating primary hypercholesterolemia, and it also has some use in homozygous familial hypercholesterolemia. Okay. Then reductase inhibitors and fenofibrate, if we combine these two medicines, then fenofibrate appears to be complementary with most statins in the treatment of familial combined hyperlipoproteinemia and other conditions that involve elevation of both LDL and VLDL. But in this combination, we should have particular, regular monitoring of liver and muscle function, the liver function test and the muscle, this protein, creatine kinase enzyme. Okay, so now we have just one medicine left, that is ezetimibe. Ezetimibe, it inhibits the intestinal absorption of phytosterols and cholesterol. Okay, ezetimibe, it selectively inhibits intestinal absorption of cholesterol and phytosterols. A transport protein NPC1L1 is the target of this drug. It is effective in the absence of dietary cholesterol because it also inhibits reabsorption of cholesterol excreted in the bile. So it can be used in a daily dose of 10 milligram for average reduction of LDL cholesterol. There might also be seen some increase in the HDL. For toxicity, as ezetimibe, it does not appear to be a substrate for cytochrome P450 enzymes. Experience to date reveals a low incidence of reversible impaired hepatic function with a small increase in incidence when given with a reductase inhibitor. Myositis has also been reported rarely. So this is all for today. Thank you for watching.